What we do here is go back.
Lockdown Arsenal was the worst team to ever grace the beautiful game of football. Never before has a team caused so much stress for its own fan base. It all began in March 2020, when COVID-19 was spreading across the globe. It affected nations, economies, businesses, but none more so than Arsenal Football Club. In fact, it was so bad that Arsenal had to sack their mascot. Mesut Ozil was also exiled during this period, causing even greater controversy. But Arsenal had the chance to set all that right with the return of football away at Manchester City. There was no fans in the stadium, with the exception of those watching on Zoom, but all eyes were on Arsenal with a chance to prove they could now compete again under Arteta. Pablo Mari got injured, David Luiz came on and produced one of the worst performances in Premier League history. With his first touch, he dropped the shoulder to send absolutely nobody, and then he completely missed the flight of the ball and assisted Sterling to make it 1-0. In the second half, it got even worse, as he misjudged the ball again and let Mahrez run past him and took him down in the box for a penalty and a red card to round off the biggest bozo performance of all time. Obviously, De Bruyne scored the penalty, Arsenal finished the game of 10 men, and they lost 3-0. But we had a chance to get back to winning ways away at Brighton. However, this game ended up changing the course of football history forever, as in the 35th minute, Neil Maupay chased down a bouncing ball in Arsenal's box and injured Bernd Leno. Personally, I'll never forget Bernd Leno shouting at Maupay from the stretcher. But more importantly, he was replaced by Emi Martinez, and we all know what he went on to achieve after this for club and country. To this day, I still have no idea how this pass from Ceballos worked, or why he even attempted it with Lacazette on the floor. But then in the second half, Nicolas Pepe scored a beautiful goal to make it 1-0, and all Arsenal fans thought this would be the moment he would kick on and finally perform like a £72 million player. And lockdown genuinely wasn't real, because what on earth is this abomination, please? A few minutes later, Brighton equalised with one of the most scuffed goals of all time, and Holding really thought we wouldn't notice him trying to keep the ball out of his hand. But then in the final minute of stoppage time, Brighton came forward with one last attack, and of course, it was Neil Maupay to score the winner with almost the last kick of the game. But the drama was not done there, as at full time, this certified bozo Matteo Guendouzi decided to choke Maupay, and of course, he never played for the club again after that. However, the best thing to come from this game has to be Ty's reaction on AFTV after the game.
Maupay, you are an absolute disgrace. You're cheap. I hope Brighton get relegated.
And please remember, this is only 2 games into lockdown, and we've already got the mascot getting sacked, the most iconic player being exiled, whatever this was by David Luiz, the second best player of the season getting injured, and our midfielder attacking opposition players. We managed 4 wins from 4 to get us back on track before Jamie Vardy attacked Shkodran Mustafi. I'll be honest, I think all Arsenal fans have wanted to do that at least once. But then it was the North London derby, the biggest game of the season. Arsenal versus Tottenham. We started well as Lacazette scored a screamer to open the scoring, but it took just 2 minutes for this boneheaded bozo Sead Kolasinac to pass the ball straight to Son. This team was really just sabotaging themselves, man. It was painful. And then later on, Toby Alderweireld scored from a corner to win Tottenham the game. And not only had we just lost the derby, but now we had to face league winners Liverpool before playing Man City in the FA Cup semi-final. It was set to be the worst week in Arsenal history. It took Liverpool just 20 minutes to take the lead through Sadio Mane, but then Van Dijk was feeling charitable and assisted Lacazette before Alisson gave the ball away again for Nelson to score. So Arsenal actually beat Liverpool, and all this was without Aubameyang on the pitch. And I must say, this picture is cold. However, Man City actually had something to play for at Wembley. Before the game, we were seeing these memes all over the internet, and when Aubameyang missed this chance, it seemed like we had fumbled any opportunity we had. But somehow, he got 2 more chances, and we actually won 2-0. We even kept a clean sheet. To this day, I could not tell you how we won both of these games, but I'm not complaining. We then had an easy game against relegation battling Aston Villa, which of course would be a comfortable victory. So comfortable that Aubameyang was even able to get distracted for a corner and nothing would happen. Oh wait. In typical Arsenal fashion, we went from beating Liverpool and Man City to losing to 19th place Aston Villa a few days later. We finished 8th outside the European places, but had one more chance to save our season: the FA Cup. If there's one thing Arsenal can rely on to save their season, it's the FA Cup. But this time, inside just 5 minutes, we were already 1-0 down through Christian Pulisic. However, this wasn't just Chelsea v Arsenal. This was Chelsea v FA Cup Arsenal. So of course we came back. Aubameyang scored twice again, absolutely spinning Zuma before chipping Caballero to win the cup for Arsenal. He knows how to score goals, but apparently he doesn't know how to lift trophies. But at least he's won some, unlike someone. And to this day, I could not tell you how this abomination of a team won a trophy. Even though we were terrible, we actually had hope for the new season. We brought in Thomas Partey, Gabriel, and he who shall not be named. And there was a good chance of making the top 4 this season, especially after beating Liverpool in the Community Shield. Aubameyang paid respect to Black Panther before scoring the winning penalty to make it 2 trophies in 1 month. Then was our first game of the season away at Fulham, and Willian in this game was the most misleading performance of all time. We had been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, and flat out deceived by this Brazilian bozo. Signing another old Chelsea player was already controversial after what had already happened with Cech and David Luiz, but nothing could prepare us for how much worse Willian was gonna be. He ended up having one of the best debuts in Premier League history. He got 2 assists on his debut, but the streets will remember 3 assists. Because realistically, who's gonna pretend this disguised pass to Lacazette wasn't on purpose? We all should have known this game wasn't real when we saw Robert Holding doing keepy-ups in the middle of the pitch, almost assisting Lacazette. After this game, Willian went on to become potentially the most useless player I have ever seen at my football club. Every week, it was actually painful when I saw him in the starting lineup. I don't think a single player has ever put me through so much trauma ever. However, after the first game of the season, it was looking good. I remember even thinking maybe we could challenge for the title, but one thing was missing. Aubameyang's contract was expiring. In the 2 seasons leading up to this, no player scored more Premier League goals than Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. He carried us to winning the FA Cup, and he was our captain. Realistically, we were nothing without this man. But then he finally signed a new deal. I have never seen a new contract ever hyped up this much. It was insane. They did a whole live stream announcing it, just for it to sign away all his footballing capabilities. I don't know how it's possible for such a good footballer to suddenly become so bad. It took him 6 games to finally score his first goal after the new contract, and even that was a penalty. It seems that Man United were equally bad, because I don't know how they managed to lose to us. Now, I must say, viewer discretion is advised for this next segment, as it is potentially the most horrifying run of form any team has ever had in the history of history. By the time we faced Villa at home, we'd won 4 games and lost 3, putting us 10th in the league, behind Villa, who had just beaten Liverpool 7-2. And this game was peak banter era for Arsenal. It was Emi Martinez's first game back at the Emirates, and Kieran Tierney completely malfunctioned. I have no idea how he managed to do this. How Rob Holding earned a contract to Arsenal Football Club, I will never know, because what on earth is this NPC defending, please? And Villa ended up scoring from the same attack through an own goal by Starboy Saka at the back post, back in the days when he was playing left wing back. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Willian Borges da Silva was a curse on Arsenal Football Club and my eyes. How does a professional footballer get a shot that high? Does he know what sport he's playing? And I still can't decide if this shot is even worse, because how is he getting it that far wide? It was like he was sabotaging on purpose. In the second half, Villa would score 2 more goals, both through Arsenal fan Ollie Watkins. The defending in this team was just non-existent, and the third goal was even worse, with Jack Grealish bullying Hector Bellerin before playing through Watkins to make it 3-0. We were in desperate need of a hero in our next game against Leeds, but I don't think Nicolas Pepe quite got the memo when we said we needed him to be our own Zidane. Gabriel's header against Wolves saved us from our goal of the month of November being Aubameyang's penalty against Man United, but we still lost the game obviously. Next up was the North London derby, and this was the most painful game in Arsenal history. We went into a North London derby in December, sat in 15th, whilst our rivals were top of the table. This Arsenal team was so unbelievably unserious. We didn't even have a creative midfielder, so we were playing Lacazette at cam. It was peak. Our right back couldn't even take throw-ins, and I'm convinced that at one point in this season we saw more Hector Bellerin foul throws than goals scored by our football club. Heung-min Son scored a bang with Tottenham's first attack of the game, then they got a second through Kane, and this goal was just comical, man. Can someone please tell me why Thomas Partey is walking off the pitch? I get he was injured, but why doesn't this bozo just lay down and hope they stop play? And then Arteta pushing him back on the pitch, man. We were so unserious. Aubameyang still only had 1 goal in 10 games since signing the contract, but he would finally score again as we faced Burnley at home in the wrong net. An own goal to make it 7 losses in 10 games. Xhaka manhandling Burnley players didn't help. I don't know how Nenny didn't give away a penalty for this. And this guy was all Arsenal fans at this point. Theo Walcott's opener for Southampton meant he now had more goals at the Emirates that season than Aubameyang, and he left nearly 3 years before. Aubameyang would finally score and Arsenal finally didn't lose. That would all change against Everton, however, as of course Arsenal lost again, making it a run of 10 games where Arsenal had 1 win, 2 draws and 7 losses, and just 4 goals scored. 4 goals in 10 games. We were 15th at Christmas with 14 points from 14 games, just 4 points above Fulham in 18th.
You're proving my point. No, you're proving your point.
We're fucking 15th.
It's on the
We're 15th. We are 15th, sir.
But at least we still had the Carabao Cup to give us hope against Manchester City. I've seen that one before, but this game got off to the worst possible start, as in just 2 minutes, Gabriel Jesus made it 1-0. And I still can't decide what's worse, Mustafi completely missing the ball on purpose, or the goalkeeper trying to Superman punch it whilst behind Jesus. This game was also Gabriel Martinelli's return from injury, and he was our only shining light in this game. So of course he ended up getting clattered by Ederson, and not long into the second half, he had to be replaced. What does the name Renar Alex Renarsson mean to you? I'm not sure I have ever seen a goalkeeper stand this far wide for a free kick. So tell me how he managed to let the ball go in that side. He was hugging the post, and the ball went straight down his throat, yet still ended up in the back of the net. Mahrez couldn't even bring himself to celebrate, it was that bad. And we ended up losing 4-1, and we're out of the cup. So when Chelsea came to the Emirates, we were just begging for mercy. Surely it couldn't get any worse. Lacazette scored, Xhaka scored, Saka scored. We brought in Emil Smith Rowe and actually won. And we won again. And we kept on winning. We couldn't stop winning. Even Aubameyang was scoring. Away at Wolves, Nicolas Pepe even scored a wonder goal to put us 1-0 up. My football club was finally back. I could finally enjoy watching the sport I loved once again. But then, just as I was finally given a reason to be happy, this team decided to fumble again. David Luiz gave away a penalty and got a red card somehow. And then in the second half, Bernd Leno decided to do this and get himself sent off. So we were left with 9 men, and all that hard work was ruined. Of course we lost, and then we lost again to Villa. We thought Aubameyang was finally back when he scored a hat-trick against Leeds, just for him to miss this sitter against Benfica. In the second leg, Dani Ceballos decided to assist a Benfica player to put them in the lead. But Aubameyang redeemed himself and won us the game in the last minute. Back in the Premier League, Xhaka also assisted the opposition against Burnley, causing us to drop points again. And then Aubameyang turned up late to the North London derby, so he got dropped. Eric Lamela scored a Puskas winning goal in this game, but it wasn't relevant whatsoever because he got sent off and Arsenal won the game. Away at West Ham, we went 3-0 down in the first half, but Callum Chambers turned into prime Cafu to get us back in the game before Lacazette equalised late on. But we couldn't recover from going 3-0 down against Liverpool, as Aubameyang got bullied out the game by a centre-back partnership of Ozan Kabak and Nat Phillips. After drawing the first leg, we went away to Prague in the Europa League, where Lacazette took this iconic stance before we went on to batter them 4-0. But 12 months on from COVID, football was about to take another crazy turn.
Late last night, under the cover of darkness, the European Super League project was formally launched.
European football clubs announce new Super League competition.
It will change football in this country forever.
It's a disgrace, it's embarrassing, and it's completely and utterly only about one thing, and that's money.
Arsenal joining the Super League was the most unserious thing of all time.
Arsenal aren't even in the Champions League. You watched them earlier on today. We're absolute shambles of a football club at the moment.
After a 1-1 draw at home to 18th place Fulham, thanks to a last-minute equaliser to put us up to 9th, yes, 9th in the league in April, we decided that now was the best time to announce our participation in the European Super League. This Arsenal team was tragic. I have never seen something less super in my life. We'd gone 4 years without Champions League football and could hardly compete with the likes of West Ham and Everton, let alone Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. No team with Hector Bellerin as captain should ever be considered for any sort of Super League. In this game, Arsenal went 1-0 down to a Josh Maja penalty won by Mario Lemina. When we did eventually equalise, Eddie Nketiah proceeded to celebrate like this, and we really saw this and decided to join the European Super League a few minutes later. I have never seen something so shameless. Of course there were protests after this before our next game against Everton. Despite COVID restrictions, we had the chance to redeem ourselves and close the gap behind Everton to just 1 point with a win. But instead, we lost the game with Richarlison skinning Xhaka and then Leno letting this diabolical cross go through him and into the net. A truly embarrassing way for us to respond to people saying we weren't worthy of being in the Super League. And of course, we still had time for one more Thomas Partey long shot. Despite being terrible in the league, we still had the Europa League to save us. And in the semis, we had no other than Unai Emery's Villarreal to face. This was Arteta's chance to prove Arsenal did the right thing by replacing Emery with him, and he did exactly that by playing Emil Smith Rowe as a false nine. Of course, we went on to lose the game. Ceballos got sent off as well, making it our 6th red card of the season. In the second leg, we were in need of a goal late on to save us, and Arteta had one last trick up his sleeve.
And I got the breaking news that Willian has signed for Arsenal.
I can play on the right, I can play in the middle, I can play on the left side as well.
You bring off Aubameyang and pull up fucking Willian!
I come to help.
Of course, Willian did nothing and our hopes were over. But now, when there was nothing to play for, it was time for us to get serious. The Premier League was not ready for what was about to come. 9 months after joining the club, in his 37th and final game, not including the next pre-season when he turned up, looking like this, Willian finally scored his first goal for Arsenal. And then Nicolas Pepe decided he wanted to turn up as well, scoring beautiful goals against West Brom, Crystal Palace and Brighton to give us 5 wins from 5 meaningless games to end the season. We finished 8th for the second season in a row, but this time without winning a trophy, in what has to be the worst season in Arsenal history. But we still managed to do the double over Chelsea.